Today on StoryCube, we welcome a man whose unseen job deals with death daily, making farewells possible. Michael is a mortician. His job is to open body bags, prepare the bodies, and give them back a human face. But what he sees, no one should ever have to see. Bodies decomposing for several weeks, horrific accidents, family tragedies. How do you react when you first see a swollen, unrecognizable body? What does death really smell like? And how do you sleep after spending the day cleaning up blood? And then there are the families who insist we dress their loved ones in too small suits or place unlikely items in the coffin. A phone, a letter, sometimes even a bottle of whiskey. What are the worst accidents, most shocking causes of death, and wildest stories from inside the funeral home? Tonight in StoryCube, Michael tells what is never shown, the backstage of death, brutal, real, but terribly human. Welcome to a new field that no one talks about in true crime. Welcome to StoryCube.
I handled violent deaths, often suicides.
Oh yeah?
It all depends on the firearm. You've got a cute little pistol that makes a small entry and exit wound. That's it. And then you've got the shotgun. With that, there's nothing left really. There, I cared for a young woman killed by her partner.
By her partner?
Yeah, we had heard about it in the media, in the newspapers and all that. I didn't know. I found out when I had to do it. I removed a brother and sister from the living room after the brother slapped his sister during a dispute over a €4,000 car inheritance.
Have you ever seen something like that? Or a guy who took his own life?
And was it violent?
Hello everyone. Today on StoryCube, we're welcoming Mikhail. Actually, Mikhail has an unusual job. He's a Thanatopractor. What does that entail? Maybe before we discuss his best or worst stories, maybe it would be relevant, Miguel, for you to explain to us what exactly this job you do is.
So, the Thanatopractor is the person who performs preservation care on the deceased to slow down thanatomorphosis, which is basically decomposition.
Okay, so basically, you step in once there's a body to try to preserve it for as long as possible?
That's right. Not for as long as possible, just until they depart, until the coffin is closed. After that, there's no point in preserving it anymore. It just needs to remain intact and non-pathogenic, meaning free of bacteria and viruses, at least until their departure.
It's a job that not many people talk about, and I thought it would be interesting to actually go back over some of the different stories you might have seen during your career in the end, and to talk a bit about that, to also explain to people what this job is, and to go back over it a little. What led you to this job?
I started young. I got interested in it when I was about 15. I did some research about it. And then I went into a military career. I wanted to be a helicopter pilot, but ended up taking the gendarme exam instead. My asthma got me a 1-year deferment, and I looked into it again. I did some more research. I took an entrance test for a school of embalming, and I went on a discovery internship. I liked it, and I said, well, okay, I'll go for it. Then I entered a school, and that's it. I started working in the funeral business at 18.
What was it that you liked about it at first?
Besides embalming, I worked at a company doing general funeral work. It's actually very human. You support people with stories who matter to whole families. For several generations, it's crazy, the importance of the role we have, and I liked that. I really felt like I was useful. Every job benefits someone, but this one is about supporting people. It's a human job. There you go. I feel like I'm useful, if you will.
So, what are the basics, actually, that you learn over there?
The basics of thanatopraxy?
Yes, just in general, actually.
Well, the basics of thanatopraxy. There's definitely a very medical, very scientific side to it. Let's be clear. If you don't like science, it's not for you. That's it. You need to know anatomy and have a foundation in forensic medicine and histology. So there's a whole core part that's very academic. You should know that. It's not the best part. And then there's the whole technical part. So the technical part where we learn to dress, apply makeup, and style a deceased person's hair, etc. How to handle a deceased person. And that is mostly done during an internship, really, with a Thanatopractor.
In anatomy, did you also do things with bodies or things like that? Or not necessarily? Because people, I think they kind of imagine that. Is that really what it is in the end?
Well, actually, if you want, it depends on which program you're in. You can do a program in a private school. At that point, it's more structured, but if you do it in a medical school, in the medical schools. There are what we call anatomy labs, where there are bodies donated to science, and of course you can practice on those bodies. So obviously it's much more concrete, and there indeed it's anatomy professors, it's doctors who actually come to give dissection classes. They go from the outermost to the deepest part to understand the pathway, how things work and where everything is located. And to illustrate everything we've learned on diagrams, on sheets of paper.
How long does it take before you can start practicing this profession?
It depends, since you need to pass your exam first. The exam takes about a year to get, and if you fail, you must wait another year to retake it. You also need about a year of practical training. You must intern for 6 to 12 months, then pass a practical exam. If you succeed on the first try, you can graduate in 2 years. Failing a step means waiting a year. If you fail both theory and practical, it takes 4 years.
What do you encounter when starting your job? Do you see a corpse right away?
Anyway, we work with the deceased. As soon as we finish our theoretical exam, the entire practical internship is done with real deceased people. We always accompany a certified embalmer and observe his work as it's his responsibility. And he really teaches us in total immersion. So actually we see everything he sees.
How does it feel the first time you see a deceased person or a corpse?
I had seen one before since I had done internships. And on top of that, I joined the company that introduced me to the job during my internship. And actually, alongside my studies, I was a pallbearer driver. So I was already dealing with that. I was already dealing with the deceased and so on. It never bothered me. I just used to talk to them at first. In the beginning, I talked to them a lot.
You talk to the deceased?
Yes, I would find myself alone with the deceased, and I would talk to him as if he were alive.
What would you say to him like?
I'm not sure. I talk to him, share about my life, mention his outfit and say, we'll make you look good and take care of you. Even in my early days in the funeral business, when I was alone with the deceased, I used to talk to them a lot. I think it was kind of a way to let things out. I don't know.
In the meantime, you've gained a lot of experience. What are some of the worst bodies you've seen or the worst conditions you've encountered?
I've definitely seen some. But the worst is when the body is found late. That means bodies that are discovered after several weeks. Inevitably, you find them in the middle of summer. That's it. That's the most complicated part. There's almost nothing left.
What does it look like?
Almost nothing. Almost nothing, because obviously you find a body after 3 weeks. In the middle of August, there are insects that have been there, and where there are insects, there are eggs, and where there are eggs, there are maggots. So actually, there's not really any substance left. You can't recognize the deceased. It smells really bad. As soon as the bacteria start to proliferate, the smell becomes nauseating. That's also how we end up finding them, by the way.
Have you ever had requests that just can't be done? Like when someone insists the deceased be dressed a certain way, but it's not possible.
Not impossible, but the funeral business can be funny at times. Many ironic situations happen because people seem to have lost awareness of others' body size. A little old lady once brought me her husband's suit, saying she'd love to see him in it again. But I looked at the suit and I said yes, but it was his wedding suit. But 40 years ago.
Okay, yeah.
But there were 30 kilos since then, so sometimes you tell the sometimes it's funny.
Yeah.
Sometimes you think, well, that's how it is. It's funny. They dress them for the season.
And how do you handle it at that moment, by the way, when you have, did you tell him no, or did you?
Either you're in sync with reality or you cut in the back. You cut in the back and put the sleeves on, and you cut so you can put it on however you can. And then, the back of the body isn't. It's very, very rare to do that. You should avoid it. When you have no choice, you have no choice. If the clothes don't fit, that's it.
In that case, did you do that?
That's what we did, yeah.
Okay, damn.
That's what we did. We melted it in the back, added the sleeves, and from above, you actually see nothing. Grandma was happy. He had his wedding suit. If people don't want to listen to reason after a while, if they absolutely want that, so be it.
Why shouldn't you do it often? Is there a reason?
For ethical reasons, it's not right. They have clothes cut open in the back.
Yeah, it's not,
No, we avoid it, but sometimes in cases of extreme obesity, we do it. Or in some cases.
How do you put a wedding dress on a deceased person?
It's horrible. It's horrible. The wedding dress, it's horrible. As soon as there are frills, all those things and everything, it's super complicated to put on.
How do you do it? Do you carry the deceased in that situation?
No. We have a whole handling technique, kind of like what healthcare workers do with people who have limited mobility. You see, we actually have a whole bunch of techniques. We move forward little by little. That's it. There are all kinds of gestures we can do. It's hard to explain. We have to put on clothes without hurting our backs since they're dead weight. And so at the end of the day, that's it. And also while respecting the deceased.
Okay, yes.
But if the clothes are the right size, we can put everything on a deceased person. There's no problem. You just have to take your time.
How long does it take to dress a deceased person?
It depends. A wedding dress takes about 20 minutes.
Oh, yeah?
Otherwise, dressing a deceased person takes only 5 or 10 minutes. If the stiffness is gone and the deceased is fully manageable, there's no problem.
Earlier, off camera, you mentioned bodies sometimes swell. What causes that?
A body can swell in several ways. It can swell due to the proliferation of bacteria precisely. If you want inside us throughout our lives, we have something that's beneficial to us. It's the commensal flora. It can be the vaginal flora, the oral flora, the intestinal flora. These bacteria line our hollow organs. All of this benefits us during life, but after death, our immune system can't control them. These bacteria will keep multiplying as they don't need a living organism to do so. It can multiply anywhere on the ground floor or my hands. Then they'll turn on us and eat us. But in this process, since we have many bacteria in the abdomen, where fecal matter and the food bolus are, So that's where they have something to feed on. Also in the intestines, that's where they're going to proliferate a lot. That's where the green abdominal stain appears and decomposition begins, right in the celiac fossa. A green stain would spread as bacteria multiply, causing abdominal swelling. A body can swell significantly after death due to bacteria.
What do you do if a deceased person is swollen like that?
We can do what's called degassing. Basically, we make an incision, go as far as the peritoneum, and try to deflate, so release the gases. If it's ascites, meaning it's fluid that we find also in the abdomen, we will drain it so we can remove a phenomenal amount. And usually that's enough.
So, you remove the fluid that's in?
Yeah, that's right. Well, even living people can have ascites. It's a condition where the person produces excess fluid that fills the spaces between abdominal organs. That's it. You can drain it from both living and dead people.
Has it ever happened to you to remove large amounts of fluid, or how does that work?
Oh, yes. Yeah. I've already removed 15 liters from a deceased person.
15 liters?
Yeah, 15 liters, that's huge.
You have 15 liters?
That belly looks ready to burst. It's rare, but it happens.
Doesn't it disgust you? Isn't there something about it?
No, it doesn't disgust me. But we know a deceased person can literally explode from gases. It happens. Late discoveries, that's what happens after a while.
How does it happen? Is it like the skin cracks after a while?
After a while, with the pressure, because there's a crazy amount of pressure. Sometimes when we're scrolling on social media, we see the animals. There's a famous picture of a hippopotamus being eaten by a cheetah or something like that, and it literally explodes because it's swollen like a balloon. Afterwards, these are late discoveries. That rarely happens now since most people die in nursing homes or hospitals. So, if you will, they die in a facility and everything is handled quickly. But if someone is found quickly, I'm not sure. After 2 weeks in summer or a hot apartment in winter, the old man had no family, so no one noticed him for 2 weeks. You can find cases like that in some states. Anyway, we're made of flesh and bone. We're literally meat. So just imagine when you have meat in your fridge. When you go past the expiration date a little and you realize your package is really swollen. You see? Well, that's the idea. Actually, bacteria, that's why they say you shouldn't eat from a swollen package. It's because the bacteria on it have multiplied. They have a metabolism. They've created gases. They make your package swell up. It can be the same for a human.
That's crazy.
We're just meat anyway.
Have you ever seen a body that stuck with you? Something that shocked you?
Yes, there are many images I'll never forget, inevitably, in my career.
Do you have an example like that?
It makes sense. I had a very advanced decomposing body where there wasn't much left. I had someone who drowned and was found months later on a riverbank, so there you go.
What does that look like? Is it a body that...
Nothing really, just a skeleton with a little bit of remains. It's not. Inevitably, the water, the fish, everything. I've experienced what they call violent deaths, usually people ending their own lives,
Oh yeah?
So obviously when it's done with a firearm, it all depends on the firearm. You have a small pistol that creates a tiny entry and exit wound, and that's all. Then there's the shotgun, where nothing remains.
Oh yeah, what does a shotgun do when you...
Well, it depends on where it's aimed, but there's nothing left. There's not much left, really.
Wait, that's crazy.
Oh yeah, it makes gaping holes inevitably. It goes off like that. It's wide. You can see how much damage a shotgun does to animals at long range. Just imagine up close. Things like that are rare, thankfully. In this job, we know we'll inevitably face things like that.
Have you ever seen something like that? Or a guy who's been messed up for life?
And was it violent?
Or whatever, that would have...
Yeah. Well, yeah, I had that. I had it recently. Yeah, really not pretty to see. Yeah, I had it.
What was it?
He shot himself with a hunting rifle. Inevitably, no, those aren't images that... You can't get anything positive out of that, There isn't any... First of all, we have nothing to do, so it's already pretty frustrating to think that...
What do you do in those situations?
We can't do anything. Sometimes if the body is intact, we can dress the person. So if the body is intact, we can bandage the head, etc. Make it so that it's clean and we can still dress the deceased, you see? Ethically, the family knows he'll leave dressed, which comforts them, instead of worrying he might leave in blood-stained clothes. If we can already do that, that's good. It's mostly done out of respect for the deceased and to comfort the family. Sometimes we may not step in. Actually, if you want, thanatoplasty is the technique that tries to do reconstruction, etc. It works really, really well. We can do miracles, but miracles have their limits, you see? So there comes a point where we can't fix everything, and that's just how it is.
Have you ever seen a deceased person missing a limb or something similar?
Yeah, that's happened to me, yeah.
What do you do in those cases?
Everything must go with the deceased first. That's it, we can't separate them. So if someone is dismembered, their limb must stay with them.
Okay, so what do you do then? Do you place it beside them?
No, it all depends if you can. If it's a clean cut, you can suture. You can try to suture the two limbs to patch them up. If not, we have many techniques. As a thanatologist, you need to be a bit of a MacGyver.
Like what?
If you have a cut, it happened to me once on a leg, you bandage a part of the leg and then you make it all watertight with cellophane and bandages, etc. So it's clean and blood won't stain your clothes. You do the same on the separated limb, you see. Next, rejoin the two using cellophane or bandages.
So you actually reattach the...
Yes, that's it if you want. The goal is to stop the leakage. You can bandage the stump and use absorbent materials. You can use Cauterant, which are strong products that seal small channels to prevent leakage. You find a solution and manage. I knew a young man who lost his leg, but his family didn't notice. Because, you see, we were able to reattach the pieces. And the idea is that visually you can't see anything. And the person leaves with a semblance of integrity, if you will.
Do you know what happened to him? I mean, why?
Car accident? Yes.
Oh wow, does losing limbs happen often in car accidents like that?
No, but still, those are the most violent cases are still the bikers. We all know that. There's no body work, but car accidents can be violent, though not as... Death can be ironic. The worst car accident I saw involved someone dying in a car without a license. That's what's crazy. That's what's crazy. Sometimes speed isn't the issue. He just had the accident at the wrong place and time. If you want, he actually rolled down a ravine and was badly hurt.
So he went down into a...
Yeah, that's it.
He fell into a...
He was badly hurt after falling into a ravine and died in an unlicensed car. Speed wasn't the cause, but the circumstances were.
Oh, because I didn't understand. A car without a license is a car that goes really slowly.
Yeah, that's it. You know, the little ones, the yogurt pots, you see. Yeah, he died in one of those and it was badly damaged. You could have just said, wow, he maybe took one. He hit a bridge pillar at 150 kilometers per hour, but no, not at all.
Yeah. And what did he have? He was...
Oh yeah, it wasn't pretty. No. There was a whole part of his face that was gone, etc.
Have you ever had to work with the body of someone you know?
Yeah. Being a mortician is actually uncommon. When loved ones lose someone, they usually want someone familiar to handle things, so they'll ask you. So it's hard to say no, it's tricky. And then I also prefer to do it myself. So yeah, I had my great uncle when I was at the beginning of my career, actually. Recently, I had two friends, but one was much closer. And I did it because I also knew it would reassure his mother and reassure my other friends, you know.
What's going on in your head when you do that?
It's hard to say, you know, because actually, if you want, the first 2 days I had the aftershock. We had to go tell other friends of ours and so on. If you want, I went through it. The next day, when you talked to me about it, I cried. And then after that, he was autopsied because he took his own life. And from the moment I knew I was going to have to work on him, well, I don't know, I put up a shell. There was the professional side, if you will. I did my job, I did my best to make him look better and so on. So he would last longer, allowing everyone to pay their respects. And actually, when it came time to close the coffin, that's when I let go. That's the moment, actually, when I broke down. My mission was over. I just had to ensure he stayed beautiful until the end. It was delicate, but I kept that professional side, actually, despite everything. Once I knew my job was done, I started to grieve a little. And that was more complicated. I think the professional side kind of saved me during those days.
Did you hesitate or accept immediately?
No, right away. From the moment they told me, in the next hour. Within the next hour, I told his mother I could handle it if she wanted.
Does it ever happen that the body is so damaged that you refuse to show it to the family of the deceased, for example?
Yeah, that happened to me for the first time recently. So it's complicated because it's the opposite of our job, if you will, our job. We go through schooling for this, we study for it, and we can do it. Like I was telling you, we can do wonderful things, even on very damaged bodies. If you want, sometimes you just have to accept it's better not to see them, even though it goes against what we know and it sucks. It happened to me recently, and actually it was the first time it ever happened to me. It was a friend of mine, if you will. And I know her mom was waiting to see her. She had brought me all the clothes and so on, but actually she came back too late from the IML, if you will. She was autopsied, like many people, because she was young. And we got her body back 8 days later.
What happens after the 8 days?
8 days later, what do you want to do? Over time, the deceased situation worsens, so an autopsy was done during that period. There were small bugs doing their job, and I couldn't do anything about it. I still stayed for 3 hours. I dressed her, I tried, I did everything I could. But in the end, you have to make a choice. You have to make a choice. And you have to tell yourself, you know it's going to make the family's grieving process harder because they won't see her.
What prevented them from seeing her?
It wasn't dramatic. I even hesitated, thinking they might, but she was a bit swollen and it just wasn't really her. Her face was very swollen and it had changed color a lot. And knowing that I couldn't inject anything, it would have taken a lot of makeup and it just wouldn't have worked. There was no point. So at some point you have to make a choice. You know it's going to be hard for them because they're going to have a tough time grieving because they won't see her. But you know that if you also show a family something that, if you want, we have fewer limits because it's our job. For them it's family, but they're new to it all. If you show them a deceased person and it traumatizes them, some will eventually tell you. Recently on social media, I discussed a girl who was told not to see her brother, but she insisted and was allowed to see him. That will always be my biggest trauma.
Yes.
I should have listened to the professionals who advised me, you know?
Yes.
When we do it, it's not from happiness. We expect difficult losses because they won't have the concrete experience of seeing with their own eyes that the person has passed away. But choices have to be made because at some point there are things that can be traumatizing.
What happened to her?
She died naturally.
Okay, yeah.
There you go. In her sleep, she passed away naturally. So that's it. But since she was young, of course, they do autopsies to find out. But there are delays. There are long delays, and behind that, there are families. It's challenging for us funeral directors and morticians because we're pressured to step in afterward.
Have you ever been called in for cases involving deceased people with stories of murder or homicide?
Yeah, recently.
Do you have an example of something like that?
A few years ago, I had to care for a young girl killed by her partner.
By her partner?
Yeah.
What happened to him?
Her partner killed her in her 20s, possibly after a breakup or disagreement. He shot her with the hunting rifle. If you want, we listen to him in the media and newspapers. And I go about my day as usual and I arrive at a facility. At that time, I was just a mortician, and I arrive at a facility to do my job for the day. If you want, nothing, just normal, you know? Then everyone asks me, Mika, are you okay? Can you handle it? I say, yeah, what's wrong with them? It's okay, guys, you don't usually ask all that, you know? Actually, they told me, but you know, you're going to take care of the little one and everything. I said, well, no, I don't know. They tell me, yes, the one her boyfriend killed. I say, oh, I didn't know. So if you want, I found out like right when I was about to do it.
How do you feel when you see that? Are you surprised?
There won't be any introduction. The issue is one parent really wanted to see her, which I understand. Since the body was whole, we chose to display it, but not the head. If you want, I still dressed her and all. So they could at least see something tangible. They recognized the clothes, they could see the hands and so on. A small part of the chin was left visible. And there you go. You know that at least they have that. They'll be able to hold on to that.
You shouldn't leave the top because...
No, because the head wasn't visible. And that's it. And you ask yourself at that moment, what am I doing here? You know, you tell yourself this isn't how things should be, feeling like collateral damage because some lunatic decided to act. It's our job, but that doesn't mean we accept everything, you know?
Have you ever seen families argue because they didn't agree on how the body should be handled? Or I don't know.
Yeah, I've seen that, yeah.
Like what kind of things?
I once removed a brother and sister from the living room after the brother slapped his sister there over a €4,000 car inheritance.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, with the mother next to him crying, the father lying there, all for a car worth $4,000 or $4,600. They argued in the father, not even buried yet.
And was the deceased next to them?
Yeah. But you know, it's not uncommon. You know, for some people, death doesn't stop them. There are some, they just don't agree. Afterwards, the advantage is that the courts can rule on all that. That is, if, for example, one of the children wants a burial and the other wants cremation, well, if they can't agree, actually, it's up to us. We contact the local court where a judge sees people within 24 to 48 hours and makes a decision. But there are disagreements, of course.
How does it work when it's like that? I don't know if you know, but how do they decide afterwards?
Well, it all depends. They take a lot of things into account. I know it's happened to some colleagues of mine. What happened was that one of the children was for a religious practice, something religious, and the other wasn't. And actually what happened was that the deceased was in a nursing home. At the nursing home, he requested to see the deacon. Religious visitors often come to nursing homes. He had asked to see him, and so there was a nurse who confirmed that. Indeed, he had asked several times to see the deacon, so they started thinking that maybe that person did have religious beliefs, so it's the one who had them. The child who had chosen the religious person who prevailed, they determined it thanks to a nurse who testified from the nursing home.
Well, you've already come up with some absurd cliches about your job, like...
That's why I'm on social media, to respond to all that. Yeah, that we profit from the dead, make good money, break bones, and cut off feet to fit coffins. That we have no ethics, that we're infamous people, that we're lonely and dark-minded.
That's true. Some people ask, do you sometimes do things to make them fit in the coffin, or do you just take another coffin?
No. Actually, it's not complicated. Coffins have standard sizes designed to fit most people as they're made for the average person. Then you have what's called oversized ones. Those are coffins that are a bit bigger. And then you have custom-made ones. And actually, we don't keep coffins in stock. We order daily, while you order a day ahead for the next day or the following day. Funerals aren't held for at least 3 or 4 days, so you have time after your deceased arrives. You measure them, order the coffin, and receive it the next day or so. It's that simple. No need to break anything. It's stupid. Like I tell people, when you break a leg, your limb doesn't lose 40 centimeters. There you go. It's the same thing. If a deceased person is really too tall for the coffin, it's not complicated. You just bend the knees a little, that's all. Under the cover, with the height of the coffin, you gain some space, you bend the knees, and that's it. You make it work. Actually, you gain about 20 centimeters, and that's all. There's no need to break anything. That's such a cliche.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, that's what people think. I mean, can you imagine breaking someone's bones? You'd need a sledgehammer or something, since bones are tough. You could tell from the outside that the person had been. No point, really.
Have you ever experienced families lying about a loved one's cause of death?
I've been asked to lie about the causes of death.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Early in my career, I was asked to lie about the causes of death.
Why? What was it?
Because the person had kids themselves and the family didn't want anyone to know. So we were asked to lie. I can't say the lie they asked me to tell because then it would be obvious. But yeah, we were asked to lie. Because if people asked us questions, we had to say, we had to make up a story.
Another version?
Yes, another version of his death.
Why? It's because they don't want to.
I don't know, because the family didn't want it to be known. I don't know if they were ashamed of it. It's a particular situation after a cease in a family. Because it's true that people ask a lot of questions. People will say to them, oh, but still, didn't they see that the person wasn't doing well? But no, you can't necessarily see it. Sometimes a small thing is the last straw that makes everything spill over and people focus on that moment. So if you want, families question themselves a lot when it comes to sugyat. And so I think that's what happened with this family. They seemed a bit ashamed and asked us to lie. Anyway, we're not here for details.
What's the longest intervention you've done? Where it was the hardest too?
It wasn't even about something violent or anything like that. In this case, it was a lady who just had a lot of redness. She had some kind of blisters. It's like water under the skin, similar to blisters from a burn. She was very overweight and the injection was going badly, making it even harder. She probably had clogged arteries. So at that point, you have to use several arteries to treat the whole body. So of course it takes longer.
Are the injections used to prevent the body from turning red?
Actually, no, it's just to preserve the body. It's an injection that's based on formaldehyde. That's it. Formaldehyde is what really does the job. It slows cell decomposition. We're made of cells. It contains bactericidal, virucidal, and insecticidal products to fight bacteria, viruses, and insects, the deceased. And it's also colored to give a bit of a tanned complexion back to the deceased. A good injection on a deceased person requires minimal cosmetics. After injecting a deceased person, we drain their blood and replace it with a slightly colored preservation solution. You'll see the deceased regain color, you'll see the changes, their eyelids will swell up a little bit, as if the blood was circulating, giving them a tanned complexion, a somewhat lively peach-like skin tone, and sometimes just that is enough. It's magical to see the cadaver change as the injection works. Massaging ensures the fluid spreads properly.
So you remove the real blood and replace it with...
Yeah, that's right. Actually, we use the cardiovascular system. It's not complicated. If you cut the tip of your foot, you bleed. If you cut the tip of your finger, you bleed. Blood circulates everywhere through capillaries, reaching all tissues and organs. We use the cardiovascular system. Nothing could be simpler. We draw venous blood from the heart and inject it into the arterial system. It's your red and blue diagram from 8th grade biology. Clearly, you weren't paying attention. So here, you see the blue and red diagram, venous blood, arterial blood. Inject on one side, draw on the other. It's a loop that works very well. This technique has existed for 150 years, has evolved, and works very well.
And where do you inject from? From the heart, you said?
No, we inject directly into the arteries.
Okay, yes.
It's usually the carotids, but can also be the brachials or femorals.
Okay.
It all depends on the areas we actually want to treat. Normally, with a healthy body, you only need to inject or puncture once. Since it's a loop, you handle it easily. However, if someone has blocked arteries or health issues, that can make a difference. Sometimes you must treat the limbs separately and externalize an artery. That's why it's important to know your anatomy.
In what kind of cadaver do you say? There's no point in trying to do anything. It's no longer possible.
Several factors are involved. For families, seeing a deceased loved one is crucial to grieving, so we do all we can. But if the body is too damaged, and we know there won't be many visits, because the person, for example, had no children or family.
What do you mean by too damaged?
A green body.
Okay, yeah.
A green body, there you go. That's what we call posthumous circulation, where you can really see all the bacteria, actually. Well, where we can see our own veins, and there you see there are some veins that are all brown, where really all the bacteria have multiplied inside. That's called posthumous circulation if they are too swollen or have turned green, etc. There's no point anymore. Eventually, we're not magicians. There you go. If that's the case, we also talk with the family. When I have a deceased person or doubts, we talk to the family and explain. They might just say, no, leave it as is, that's fine. And if they're really insistent, if there are children who want to see and all that, well, we can always try. But we can try, but there isn't necessarily a result afterwards. Afterwards, it's worth a try.
Do you handle similar cases like with missing limbs? Do you still proceed in those situations?
Well, yeah, honestly, with a dismembered body, the important thing is to see the face, let's be honest. The important thing is to see the face and a bit of the upper torso. Honestly, someone missing a forearm or leg can easily hide it under clothes or covers. Well, that's not a problem.
Do you sometimes notice smells when working in this field?
Yeah, of course. Smells don't bother me, and we have cartridge masks. It's mandatory because the product we use, formalin, releases formaldehyde, and it's very harmful to your health. It's classified as CMR. Thanatopractic is effective because we use quality products. It's not natural, that's a fact. We use cartridge masks for protection since bodies can smell terrible, especially when found late. That's usually the case. They die in buildings or apartments, and when the smell spreads through the hallway and floor, people realize something is wrong.
Have you ever cried in front of something or because of a story you've seen, because of a case?
Not while providing care. When providing care, we don't have much contact. Thanatopractors who only do thanatopraxy handle the deceased and rarely interact with families. It's okay if you don't know what happened. The most complicated part is the ceremonies. During the ceremonies, there are moments, of course, when you're on the edge of, Once, I cared for a child who brought all his toys. The counselor mentioned he had a favorite among them, but it was a little dragon from a series, from a cartoon, I don't know, and its wing was broken and everything. I couldn't help but fix the dragon's wing. I said, my God, it was his toy and everything. He's taking it then. While my internship supervisor worked, I glued the little dragon's wing back on. He left with his dragon. I was happy. That was still complicated though.
What happened to the boy?
I don't remember what he did. A stroke, I think, something like that. He was young, he was under 10 years old, so you think it's not the natural order of things. But then it's part of our job, so you have to know how to set boundaries.
What common causes of death do you see with bodies like that?
It's natural deaths. It's grandpa and grandma. 99% of the time, it's grandpa and grandma. That means it's people over 80 years old who died in nursing homes. Cancer is known as the disease of the century, but 3/4 of cases are due to basic factors. People who died in their sleep or who were sick, who died in the hospital. And then there are the most striking cases.
What are the steps you go through when you receive a body, for example?
First, for a treatment, confirm the deceased's identity. Ensure you're working on the correct person. Bracelets are always required. You will sanitize the deceased, meaning you disinfect them. You sanitize the body but disinfect the table. Sanitize it. The mouth, nose, eyes, and cavities are highly pathogenic areas. Perform the arterial search by making an incision, exposing the artery, preparing it, and inserting a small cannula for injection. As I explained earlier, you inject and then massage the deceased, focusing on the extremities and ears. To properly flush out the accumulation of blood and to make sure the product penetrates all those areas, you see, which are quite far from the injection point. Next, you will aspirate at the heart. You do your cardiac aspiration.
What is aspiration? Is it when you inject the product?
So the injection is when you inject the product. The aspiration.
It's when you remove the...
Yeah, when you remove the biological fluids. First, perform the cardiac puncture to draw blood, pushing from one side and drawing from the other, including the abdomen. If there are fluids like urine, etc., or any acidic substance like pleural fluid. I'm just doing a rough first pass. Then you will suture those injection points you made. We're going to do the packing, which is very important because even after the puncture, there can still be some fluid coming back up. So, you pack the mouth, throat, and nose, then tie the mouth, close the deceased's mouth, and close the eyes.
How do you close a deceased person's mouth?
We immobilize the mandible. That's what we focus on. We use a thread and needle technique so we don't touch the lips. If you want to open the lips of a deceased person, you'll see it's from underneath to stick together. There you go, but we don't work on the lips at all. We're not in saw, like I always say. We just immobilize the jaw, that's all.
So what exactly do you work on then?
We have a technique that's hard to picture, but you can go underneath and grab your jaw with your thread and needle, and then you grab the nasal ridge, but under the lips, you see, you grab the nasal ridge, and that's it. And actually, it's a little technique. It only takes 2 or 3 moves, and then you immobilize the jaw. Next, we close the eyes, which is important, with eye covers like that. They're like little plastic lenses, a bit harder. It keeps the shape of the eye because the eye dehydrates. As soon as we die, actually, from the moment we stop hydrating, we dehydrate, we dry out, actually. The eye will shrink, causing the eyes to sink in. This small lens helps maintain the eye's shape. After all the aesthetic prep, we'll do makeup, hair, cosmetics, dressing, etc. It's important to distinguish cosmetics from makeup. Cosmetics are something natural, where we even out the complexion and so on. And makeup includes eyeshadow, blush, and lipstick.
Yeah. How long does it take?
1 hour is needed for an average deceased person. After that, it can take 3-4 hours, even 10 hours for extreme reconstruction cases.
Do you mean extreme reconstruction cases?
I heard about a thanato. I have plenty of colleagues who worked on severely injured bodies where they spent entire days on them. When I was young, I spoke to a thanato who had spent 13 hours on a body. It was the guy who had fallen into a canal right where a barge was docking. So, barge versus the man, that's it. And actually, he rebuilt his face from the inside. He pushed everything out from the inside and all that.
Okay.
Some people are very meticulous.
The face was crushed, like in the...
Yeah, the guy was 8 centimeters thick at the end.
Oh, damn.
8 centimeters is about this much, and he still presented the head. He redid everything from the inside, if you want. He made an incision in the back. He redid everything from the inside. You see, by adding volume with cotton and everything. To reshape the person's head. It's crazy. No, but I know some Thanatopractors who do miracles, really crazy stuff. You should see what they start with and what you end up with. But it's hours and hours of work.
Listen, Mikhail, thank you so much. Is there maybe a final word you'd like to say to the people watching the video? I don't know. By the way, you're starting a show, right?
Yes, absolutely. I'm also launching a show called Last Will to interview celebrities about their last wishes. Simply because we deal every day with people who have never talked about this in their lives. Actually, they've never mentioned it. And yet we have to talk about it, we have to know. It's important to know everything our loved ones want and everything we want ourselves. It prevents a double burden when we lose a loved one, like having to make choices for them. So yeah, I'm launching this concept, and with celebrities it's going to be really nice. To humanize everyone a bit and to show that we're all on equal footing when it comes to death.
With great pleasure. I think you also make videos on social media yourself, by the way, too.
Absolutely.
Talk a little bit about what that is.
Absolutely. I think what's important, actually, if you want, is that social media is an incredible communication tool. I've met Thanatos from around the world. It's amazing to share knowledge with people. I've talked with Mexican and Canadian Thanatos, among others. I realized it's a universal topic everyone deserves to know. So indeed, I make little videos where I simply and naturally explain what our job is, because it's a subject that really concerns everyone. So there you go.
Exceptional. Mikhail, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
We'll put the links at the top of the description if you want to check them out. Your show and those networks will be out before this video is released.
With great pleasure.
That's already the end of this episode. Remember, if you want to keep spending the evening with me, there are now 2 videos on the screen. Click either episode to continue with us. For the others, let's meet again very soon. This was Noah in StoryCube. Have a good evening.